I always think it's good taking care of families, and I have no problem with that. The problem is, like you said, free isn't free, and now you've got plenty of people that could not have afforded their childcare now have it, but you also have people that could afford it now that don't have to afford it, and you also have, and that goes out to the taxpayer, and now you have people maybe that now they're going to put their kid in childcare, but they don't want to go to work. I mean, so you've got a balance of that. Whenever you start giving out things for free, you have people that take advantage of that, and that rises costs. We typically, when we have programs like this, we end up with massive amounts of waste to help this little group of people. That's why I take issue with it. I think it's fantastic. I would love to help people, but I think it just needs to have better parameters on it. I think when we just start throwing free things out there, we just start throwing money away.
And I don't know if there's a requirement for like both parents to have a job or something. Obviously, I don't have kids in daycare age, so I haven't looked into it. All I know is there's no income limit. So I don't know what the other rules around it are. But people take advantage of everything. I mean,
exactly.
I'm sure all of us in this room take advantage of certain tax loopholes.
Yeah.
Everyone takes advantage of something one way or another.
Sure.
So I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean,
it's probably not the best way to look at it, but if someone is getting childcare, and also like maybe they are taking advantage of it, but maybe they need the help. Maybe they need the break. I'd rather a kid be somewhere safe getting food and care than in a place where maybe they're not. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not worried about it.
I think there's so much fraud and poor fiscal responsibility in the government that a program like this is probably pretty good. If you keep this program and work on some of the other stuff that doesn't work, because I know you talked about oil and gas. I know they're starting to relax some of the regulations on oil and gas that were put in years and years ago because the technology has gotten so much better that New Mexico has been able to say, the pit rule, because it was just, we were dumping stuff into the wash. The technology has come about to recapture a lot of that water, to clean it back up and to pump it in the ground. So a lot of the regulations that we had back then when the pit rule was started, we don't have those anymore. Allows more business, more production to be done with those lax regulations, which in turn creates more tax revenue, which in turn creates programs that could help with the economy.
Yeah. And I think in the spirit of what, the daycare component, the spirit of that is fantastic. And like what you said, love the idea of being able to help the families that need the help. But then when it's just passed without the guardrails, that's the component because putting guardrails back on, it takes forever. It's hard. Or then you get all this pushback. You get people entrenched that say, the example you just used, put my child in daycare, but I'm not going to go get a job. How do you stop stuff like that? So I think if the guardrails are in, it helps with the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish.
There could be guardrails. We don't know.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, I haven't looked into it too much, but there's not enough.
The only people I know that are doing it both have jobs and both work, and they were already paying for daycare beforehand, and now they're not.
So
and I know they're going to spend more money out on the fun things, which is good.
Yeah.
I know it's like, well, then they're getting the fun stuff. I don't care because it really is good for the economy. It goes back to especially here, we have such a good local presence with things and I think people really do. Like if someone goes out and buys a side-by-side, they're going to a local place to buy that. So if they're going out and buying a boat or whatever it might be, going out to dinner, we have a lot of chains here, but I'd like to think some of it's
hopefully they're
back.
going to a local restaurant.
And the people that work in the chains live here too.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting that tip money. So as far as trickle down economics, I know I don't actually agree with all of that, but I think in this sense it does make sense to me, and I hope that it creates more of a cushion for people to be able to put more back into the economy and in turn have more options with their health.
She's a conservative at heart, Paul.
Well, I think
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true. But I think one of the big things that would help is we've talked about wages a little bit. What about the cost of living, the cost of gas, the cost of, heating and the utilities, those types of things? We keep making these, we're shutting down power plants. Our utilities are going up. Those are one of the things that,
but that's okay because all you have to do is just give people more money to compensate for that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can give it to me. My name is
that's the slippery slope I talk about. We keep doing things like that. We keep saying, we'll just give people the money to do that. Well, at some point, it just doesn't make sense to keep giving people money to solve every problem.
I actually don't agree with like stipends and stuff. I don't think that really makes sense because you're going to go and spend it right away. But most people honestly are spending it on groceries or rent or,
I mean, if we're cutting out where we're getting, our resources from, and then we, subsidize it. And we subsidize now people's, their healthcare, their food, their daycare, their, 90% of what they're getting, you're now the government is subsidizing, but where is it getting that? You're just going to take it from other people. And at some point it doesn't make sense. So it's not just about like the free healthcare. It's not just about the little programs here and there along the way. It's about the collective whole. We need to figure out how do we actually produce those things like utilities. How do we produce that to make it low cost? How do we figure out how to make daycare more affordable?
And my whole thing with this is I actually don't want the government involved in any of this,
Correct.
But I want.
See, I knew she was a conservative.
This is where I have such rub with it is because I want millionaires and billionaires to go back. And also I don't even get me started on billionaires. Don't even get me started on that. But I think that I want them building libraries and funding schools and doing all these things, but they're not. It's just not. I mean, maybe some are, but that's how it used to be is people poured back into the places that they were living. And I just really don't see that anymore. And people still need the help. So I don't want to see, tax incentives come from the government to do affordable housing. I want people that can afford it to do affordable housing. But let's be realistic here. We live in a capitalistic society. That's not going to happen 99% of the time.
Well, so, I wouldn't say 99% of the time, but
you think people here are just building and renting undervalue? I just don't know.
Not necessarily. But what I do think is that there's a lot of philanthropy that goes on. Speaking from someone who's a little bit more conservative with my views, there is a lot of philanthropy that goes on. There are people that really make good money and give back.
I know that, especially the oil field companies around here. I'm not saying there's not.
And most
I'm just saying
is privately funded.
Yeah.
And so I think if you let that, if you were to remove all the other things, all the layers of pressure that we put on a state level, on the Fed level, to a lot of companies, that there would be more giving back, but they're fighting dragons on both sides. And if you look at Hillcorp in particular, they gave every one of their employees every few years,
fantastic company.
They give them, I think, $30,000 to give to a charity of their choice.
I think it was half goes directly to the employee and then half goes to the charity, which is, that's incredible.